Well, let's stay with Brown Mogotsi, who also claims that Israeli interests were worried about the halting of trade after South Africa took that country to the International Court of Justice for its war on Gaza.
Yes, that was the time in 2023 up to 2024 that when South African government initiated an action against the government of Israel in the International Court of Justice. Now, that's when we got information that the area in Richards Bay, which is controlled by this Israeli interest, there was a worry from those interests that South Africa may hold that particular business, the trade.
What area in Richards Bay, Mr. Mahorti?
There is a mine in Richards Bay. But then the information as it came was that there was a suspicion then, a real suspicion, that the Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi was recruited by the Central Intelligence Agency, the American one. And he actively worked for them.
All right, let's bring you some analysis on this now. Brown Mogotsi and Mary De Haas's testimonies. We're joined by security expert Dorothy Mmushi, who talks to us via the virtual platform. Good to have you back, Dorothy. Always good to talk to you. Let's start with what we have just heard. Brown Mogotsi alleging that the KZN Police Commissioner, General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and the AmaZulu King, Misuzulu Gazweltini, were recruited to be the Central Intelligence Agency spies of the United States. How do you think that has gone with these two individuals? Might they be eager to go and tell the Commission exactly what they think of what has been said about them?
Good evening, Polly, and good evening to the viewers at home. The evidence led today by Brown Mogotsi is quite explosive, and the question about his involvement in the claims that King Misuzulu and General Mkhwanazi are agents of the American CIA are quite damning. And the only issue is he hasn't even provided evidence to that effect. But also what stood out is whether indeed he is a contact agent as he claims, because there's various processes that need to be followed for someone to be considered an agent. And also, even if you look at the issue that he's referring to, that relates to the allegation that General Mkhwanazi is a CIA agent, that would be something that would be investigated at national level. There's other state security agencies that would have investigated such. Why would someone at the level of Brown Mogotsi be involved in such a mission?
Question is, should we take him at face value? The commission chairperson certainly was very quick to point out that, okay, this is hearsay evidence. And the reason I'm saying that is that the probity of it, in other words, the investigations around it might be extremely difficult for us to prove. So until such time that this is checked and verified, we can't take what you are saying as gospel. Do you think that was good advice, particularly from the chair of the commission?
Yes, I definitely agree with the chair of the commission that at this stage, what Brown Mogotsi has put out there is hearsay, especially given the fact that he doesn't have any evidence to back up these claims. And also what stood out for me was the fact that he says he was involved in this operation of gathering this information, but he also says he funded all of these operations from his personal purse. I mean, if indeed he is a contact agent, there should have been funding from the official coffers for this operation to be funded. Why was he using his personal funds?
And you lead me now to exactly the question that he said a lot of things, but let's zoom in on the person, Brown Mogotsi, and what he claims to be, and that is a self-proclaimed crime intelligence operative. You've already touched on some of the key element here, and that is that some of the trips he would take are self-funded. The commission chairperson says, surely though, at some point you would have had to demand reimbursement for spending your own money in order to do this work. There are people you report to, as you tell us here. So, did you get your monies back? How did he respond?
Yeah, his response was that he is very patriotic and that he utilized his own money to go on this mission. I mean, he indicated that he spent 15,000 on this mission in Kenya to verify whether King Misuzulu and Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi are CIA agents. And in the world of intelligence, that is unheard of. And also, if you look at how he has self-proclaimed himself as an agent, people who get involved in such missions are declared to be, that they don't use their real identity. They would have a different name that they would be operating under. He operated under his true identity, which for me is quite questionable. And further, during his testimony, he indicated that when he received funds from Ket Matlala, these funds were deposited into the business account of his fiancée. So with an undercover operation, that is also unheard of. There would be some accounts that would be created for purposes of such an operation. But with that being said, all of these tactics are actually classified as top secret. So we don't know whether we will actually get clarity on how such intelligence operations do actually get conducted.
So a self-proclaimed crime intelligence operative that he paints himself to be, does that go some distance then in lowering our suspicions as members of the public about why or how he got his hands on very top secret information, basically classified documents of crime intelligence? Are we at ease tonight about why we think he would have such information, or until such time that someone comes up and tells us that indeed this is an informant of the South African Police Service, the Crime Intelligence Division? Only then should we be satisfied that indeed Brown Mogotsi is a paid informant.
At this stage, Xoli, I agree with you in that we would have to wait for his handler to be called to the commission to provide evidence to clarify whether indeed he is a contact agent. And even further, he was saying he's responsible for recruitment of informants. And yet the very same informants he's referring to, he says he at times paid them out of his own pocket. So there's a lot of issues that are glaring and that have a lot of doubts put to them in terms of how he claims to have operated as a contact agent. I'm hoping that tomorrow he will be asked to produce evidence to that effect, and I think we will get clarity and be more comfortable with his statements once his handler has given evidence at the commission.
I want to move on to Mary De Haas, but quickly before I do that, let's close the chapter, at least in summary, around Brown Mogotsi's testimony, because General Mkhwanazi and King Misuzulu are not the only people that should be worried about the allegations that have been made against them. Today, the others who are said to have received large sums of monies, and there are some of these monies that are still outstanding to them or owing to these people, is the former minister, Bheki Cele, and the men who leads the police in the country right now, General Fani Masemula. How do you think, what do you think they are thinking tonight? Are they also eager perhaps to go and clear their names before the commission?
I believe they could be eager as well, but that would also depend on whether Brown Mogotsi, as a contact agent, does have the evidence to back up what he's saying. Because at this stage, it would have been expected that someone who is claiming to be an agent would have evidence of all of these assertions that he's making. So at this stage, yes, they would be worried, but let's wait and see that if there will be evidence to that effect. And I mean, these are large sums of money that have been mentioned, so it would be expected that there should be some form of trace of the funds going out of the account of Kat Matlala and either being withdrawn in cash or it being transferred to companies or any accounts that have links to these individuals that have been mentioned.
Indeed, if you are a viewer at home and you're wondering, what in the world are we talking about right now? So the claim is that that 350 million rand tender that was awarded to the person who is now a criminal suspect, Vusumuzi Kat Matlala, he sits in jail as we speak. Out of that contract, which was, by the way, awarded at the time that Begicele was still police minister, he, Begicele, is alleged to have demanded 10 million rand, of which 2 million was paid. This is according to Brown Mogotsi. The police commissioner, Fani Masemula, is said to have demanded 25 million, 5 million of which has been paid. So they should be sitting handsomely, if we are to believe Brown Mogotsi. All right, let's move on then to Parliament and Mary De Haas, Dr. Mary De Haas. This is someone who says she talks to the media and gives commentary specifically around the work of the police and, more importantly, poor people who seem to be at the receiving end of abuse by police officers. She holds nothing back about her views on the work of the PKTT, that they basically are a resources drainer who haven't really achieved much. If anything, there should be probes around how they conduct themselves, because there appears to be more killings than arrests. But when pressed on detail, this is where she is coming short, because members of parliament are saying, where is the proof of what you are telling us? At least give us the names of your informants within the police service. Are you satisfied with her performance today?
Sure, yeah. Well, Xoli, with Dr. Mary De Haas's testimony at the ad hoc committee today, it was clear that she doesn't have evidence to back up some of the things that she has mentioned. But also, it would be a bit unfair to expect her to have evidence because she's an activist. She's merely someone who collected complaints from people who were unhappy, and then she would forward it to whichever institution for it to be further investigated. So for her not to have the evidence is really not surprising, because clearly she doesn't have the mandate to be investigating and to be able to get the hardcore evidence to prove or disprove these people's allegations.
Yeah, I think the word I used to put the question to you, Dorothy, as to are you satisfied? I think it's the correct word to use there is, are you convinced about what she has had to tell the ad hoc committee? Someone who actually pushed her on detail is the member of parliament in the DA benches, who also happens to be the chair of the police portfolio committee, Ian Cameron, because he was just very clear and concise with her that he's concerned about the lack of evidence from her. Based on what I've heard, he says, I would sue you today. And part of that, he is saying, is that you cannot make sweeping statements about certain police officers that you view as credible and others not. Where is the evidence to convince us that this one is a bad apple, that one is a good cop. Did you follow that line of questioning from Ian Cameron, and do you think that he is absolutely correct in that line of questioning when he pursued that line of question with her?
Yes, I did follow that, and I would understand why the concern from Ian Cameron, because if you look at the comments and the research that has been done by Dr. Mary De Haas, it becomes a bit subjective. It's not objective. She just bases her recommendations on issues that are based on allegations from people who are unhappy. So in that aspect, whatever came from her was not supposed to be taken as gospel. It was basically merely on allegations from complainants who were unhappy. It's things that were never tested. So some of her reports were not to be utilized or considered as gospel, as I said.
Dorothy Mmushi, thank you very much indeed for your comments tonight and indeed the analysis of these two inquiries.